Hi guys, Glader here. So today I've got a video that's going to talk a little bit about where I've been, what I've been doing, and finally achieving something I've been working towards long term in regards to the development of the World of Warcraft Mango's Trinity Core client and called FreeCraft Core and the Phantasy Star Online emulation / remake project, whatever you want to call it. So one of the main problems that I've always faced, and one of the long-term things I've always wanted to solve, was that each project, when you go into emulation, you have needs specific to that project usually. In networking, you might have some serialization that you have to do for packets that's different from other projects. And you might have networking requirements. For example, you need to create a network client for any time you want to do some networking in a game emulation project that has networking. And so this could be time consuming to do for each project. And so if we go back a long time ago when I started FreeCraft Core, I had also been working on a Phantasy Star Online project at the time, and it took time away from the PSO project, which is bad because I want to complete both. And the first thing I wrote was a metadata-based serializer for World of Warcraft packets. That is, you're able to annotate fields, properties of a DTO with attributes. And it's inspired by Protobuf, and also something that Blizzard maintains themselves in a slightly different fashion called Jam. And so I worked on this, and it was great. It worked for World of Warcraft. I was able to connect to Trinity Core servers with basically what you would call a packet bot or a packet client, and also there's some videos of a functional client, but there's not much functionality there on my YouTube channel. You can go back and look at them. But this takes time to develop, and so and to maintain as well. And so that was a problem because I have so many projects I want to work on. I've got my own MMO that I want to work on. I've got the Phantasy Star Online remake emulation project. I've got the FreeCraft Core project, which is a emulation client for WoW, for like private servers. And so it takes up so much time. So the idea was maybe we can share these libraries. And the answer is we can. Today we can, and I'm going to show you that it works. So a few months ago, I had started up something called Phantasy Star Online emulation project, which is basically create a functional or reverse engineer a functional Phantasy Star Online Blue Burst client that connects to existing Blue Burst servers. It works. This client you've seen demonstrated in several videos on my YouTube channel can connect to fellow servers, walk around and talk with other people in the lobbies, and even join parties. Got that far. It took a lot of work, and I owe a lot of it to the previous people in the community, and I've got them listed there, as well as Soli, who helped me quite a bit. But the issue was, a lot of this was, again, rewriting some of the same stuff. You gotta write a network client. Even if we were using now the FreeCraft Core serializer for packets, which again, that's the first step towards sharing, we still needed to write a network client. And that's not something, if you want to make it a good API, and you want to make it high level and not low level, you need to spend time on it, and to have to do that for each project that you ever want to do, that sucks. And so, man, this video is already longer than I want it to be. And so, going all the way back to something called, what's this? Gladinet 2, Gladinet 1, was a library created initially to abstract away the concrete implementations of the networking. For example, it had a Lindgren and a Photon server implementation. But eventually I found out, it doesn't really matter anymore. And then I moved to Gladinet 2, which was focused solely on a Lindgren implementation, specifically for Unity. There wasn't really a need for this major abstraction. Okay, but that's Gladinet 2. Where are we now? Gladinet 3. This is just a working title, Glader's Library of Advanced Development for Network Emulation Technologies. It's free. It works. It's used in the Phantasy Star Online emulation project, and it's also functional in the FreeCraft Core project. And so what it does is it abstracts now transport implementations, and you can take components and build a pipeline which fits the emulation requirements of a game. So if you dig around in the Phantasy Star Online project, you can see that if we go here, we actually construct the client like this. This is the game client. We had some cryptography handling. PSO requires buffered writing. We had some header stuff. Header size. We had a serializer. We specify some types for the incoming, outgoing packets. We had some additional functionality where we have to clear buffer after reading. And we build it and we get a managed client. So we're taking these and building like a pipeline that's able to effectively communicate with the remote server. We don't have to write any of that ourselves. It's maintained by the library, or me. And so that was great. It worked for Phantasy Star Online. The idea was it's going to work for World of Warcraft too. And as of last night, as of last week, I started to refactor quite a bit of FreeCraft core and getting it all into more or less one repository, one solution file. The repository is not ready yet. There's still stuff to merge. I still need to go through, and some stuff's got to change, but it's getting there. And today I wanted to show you that I wrote a little test client to show you that the FreeCraft core serializer works for Phantasy Star Online. It works for World of Warcraft. Gladinet 3 works for Phantasy Star Online emulation. It works for World of Warcraft emulation. And right here we have a client being composed that's able to communicate with World of Warcraft authentication servers. We've got a Trinity Core auth server running right here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to send the initial auth logon challenge. Which again, if you take a look, this is using World of Warcraft, or the FreeCraft core serializer. And if you look in Booma, which is the Phantasy Star Online remake or emulation repository, we'll click on a DTO, and you can see, yeah, it's using the same thing. It's using FreeCraft core serializer, which is a metadata annotation-based serializer. We don't have to hand write any of the serialization code, which is great. I really like that. And you can see FreeCraft core uses the same thing. So this unification of libraries or technologies, whatever you want to refer to them as, is going to significantly improve the speed at which I'm able to work on all these projects at once and multiple projects. So I've got this little test code I wrote. Again, this is not the extent at which you use Gladinet 3 or FreeCraft core serializer. This is just to test. There's also a handler system and much more that allows you to really create things quickly, high level, be very productive, and it's shared between World of Warcraft, Phantasy Star Online, and future projects, future emulation projects. Not just these two. There's going to be multiple. And so we just send an auth logon request. We read it, and we write some stuff out from the response. So we'll go ahead and build this and run it, and I'll show you that it actually works. So we now have a common serializer that works like protobufnet, or if you're familiar more with .NET stuff, it works a lot like the marshalling API for structs, where you do annotations to indicate like how something should be deserialized. Okay, it's ready, so let's run it. I really can't, like, to a non-developer, I can't express how important it is that all of these things have now a unified base. And it really is incredible that it's even possible to me. Alright, we'll run it. We should see something pop up on Trinity Core. You can see we had a login start from Glader, which is me. And we received the response, we got a success. So the whole, I've done all this stuff before, but it was never using a unified base between all my emulation projects, or even general MMO projects, which I do want to work on MMO in the future. And of course it'll be using this to... I'm happy to have unified these things together, because it really sucked to rewrite things anytime you want to go to a new project, because they all have different requirements. Especially in emulation, you do not control those requirements, so it's great that there's now a library that I'm able to pick and build a pipeline for a networking client that's able to communicate with both. And the game client for World of Warcraft, as opposed to the authentication client, also has much different needs than the authentication client. It actually has a header, it actually has some cryptography involved with the packets. And so yeah, so that was the video. I just wanted to demonstrate that Gladinet 3 and FreeCraft 4 Serializer all work together for all the emulation projects I'm currently working on. And this is really big. I hope that's evident. But if you have more questions, feel free to ask in the comments. And if you really want to see it working for Phantasy Star Online, I have several videos on my channel recently that demonstrate it being used for Phantasy Star Online. Well, that's it. I'm going to try to keep you guys updated with what's going on in the future. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching, guys.